Saints are getting screwed by the National Football League once again. I took a little bit of a closer look at the 2026 NFL schedule for the Black and Gold, and I just got to say what I found I wasn't a big fan of. You're watching Saints Now, presented by Prize Picks. My name is Trace Gerard, and we're going to dive into how the NFL has screwed the Saints. But first, we're not screwed in terms of our sub counter because we are 90 away from 59,000 members of the Golden Gang. Then we're on the road to 60K, and then we're on the road to 100K. So make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. That way you can get daily videos by Saints fans for Saints fans for 100% free. Now, this video, we're going to discuss how the New Orleans Saints got screwed due to the net rest edge that they have for the 2026 season. You might be sitting here saying, Trizzy, what the hell is the net rest edge? Well, I got an answer for you. The net rest edge is a measure of the total days of extra rest a team has compared to their opponents over the course of the season. While it may seem insignificant, it's a factor that can't be ignored. Here's an example of how it works. If the Falcons have a full 7-day bye week ahead of their game versus the Saints, and the Saints play on Monday Night Football and are on a short week, the Falcons have a rest edge of plus 8 days before their game against the Saints. Conversely, the Saints have a rest edge of minus 8 days. So that's basically how it works. Obviously, that's not exactly how the schedule's laying out, but in terms of an example, you got it. So the New Orleans Saints this year, they have the 5th worst net rest edge in 2026 at minus 8 rest days. The Saints had minus 14 rest days in 2025, which was second worst, only behind the Las Vegas Raiders. So how the New Orleans Saints got screwed, it's because New Orleans only has minus 8 rest days in 2026. Here's the leaderboard and how all of the teams' rest days currently sit. The Chicago Bears are the most rested team, or going to be the most rested team going into their matchups at plus 15 days. You see the Carolina Panthers, they're at plus 8.5, tied with the New England Patriots. The Falcons are at plus 7.5. The Giants at plus 3. You break even with the 49ers at 0. The Cardinals are at plus 1. And then you kind of start getting into the negative side of things. The Buccaneers at minus 1. Chiefs at minus 1.5. Packers at minus 2. Steelers at minus 5.5. And then you find the New Orleans Saints, who are at minus 8. Although, I will say things could be a lot worse. You could be in the double digits like the Raiders, Eagles, or holy cow, the Chargers at minus 24. That is an absolute doozy. Now, we're going to take a look at the 2025 net rest information here in just a second, because I do think that it's important to kind of take a look back at history. I think when you talk about how this idea impacts the teams going into 2026, it's fair to say it may not really be all that important. But as pointed out, I think it's hard to ignore. There's a lot of information that's worth diving into, and I think that the Saints are in a situation where although they do have a low amount of net rest days, you could still find them getting a lot of wins in the 2026 season. Let's go to the list of teams with plus 7 net rest edge days, and then we'll take a look at teams with minus net rest or 7 net rest edge days in 2025. So in 2025, the Seahawks, they were at plus 7, or they had more than plus 7. Same to the Rams, Niners, Lions, and Dolphins. You can see they were very successful squads in the 2025 season. But on the other side of the coin, that's where you'll find the New Orleans Saints, the Raiders, and the Commanders, who had minus 7 net rest edge days in 2025. And the Saints got 6 wins. The Commanders got 5 wins. The Raiders got 3 wins. All 3 teams picking in the top 10. And so I think that it's definitely something to kind of keep in mind. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more about this here in a moment, because I do think that there's a large conversation still to be had around the net rest edges that the New Orleans Saints are going to have to suffer from this year. But first, we got to say thank you to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app, and it's the best place to win cash while watching your favorite teams. You can put your ball knowledge to the test during basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs, baseball, football, golf, esports, tennis, racing. It doesn't matter. You can even make money while watching cricket or darts. There's no better time than now to cash in than with PrizePicks. The app is so easy to use, even a Falcons fan can do it. You just pick more or less on a few player stats. You lock in your lineup, and if you get your picks right, you win money. Now, here is an example of how this works. I've shown this one before because, first of all, I think it's a great suggestion. Second of all, it kind of lays out how this all goes down. So I'm going to go for a season-long projections here. Tyler Shuck and Jordan Tyson, more on their receiving and rushing touchdowns, respectively. Both numbers are at 4.5. I think that both of those guys are going to have more than that. That's why I'm selecting the more. Drake London, I'm going to take the less on his receiving yards because I think that the quarterback situation in Atlanta is an absolute disgrace. It's a joke, and I don't think that they're going to be very efficient through the air. I put $20 down to win $120, and you can do the same over on PrizePicks. Make sure you download the app by clicking the link in the comments or description of this video, and plug in our promo code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to PrizePicks. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Like I said, $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup if you download the PrizePicks app and use our promo code HMA. Click the link down below to download the app, plug in the promo code, and you can start winning money. Shout out to PrizePicks, where it's always good to be right. Now, I want to say one thing here. Don't put too much stock into the net rest edge days. Obviously, things can transpire and things can go different and things can be, changed at the drop of a hat. Injuries settle in, players outperform their expectations or exceed expectations, or players don't live up to expectations. Things happen. Don't put too much stock into all of this conversation, but it is something that's interesting, and it is hard to ignore, and the trends do tend to give you at least an idea of what could potentially happen for teams throughout the season. So kind of just revisiting the NFC South teams, because we kind of brushed through all 32 squads. Mostly want to focus in here on the division. The Panthers, they have the highest net rest differential at 8.5 or at plus 8.5 days. That is the highest in the NFC South. They won the division last year. I do think that they're not going to be as successful this year. But the Falcons, they're at plus 7.5 net rest differential, so 1 day minus the Carolina Panthers. And I do think that it's, fair to say these teams that have more rest, they're going to be more equipped. They're going to be a little bit healthier. They're going to be a little bit more ready to go, have more time to prepare and all that good stuff. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're at -1 net rest win differential. Look, I again, don't put too much stock into all of this, but it's interesting to see that the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons, they're going to be much more rested going into the matchups compared to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the New Orleans Saints net rest differential because I think that there's some pretty information to share still here. But ladies and gentlemen, if you don't give a damn about the net rest differential and you just want to say, shuck it, the Saints are going to win anyway, then you can get yourself some merch. Chatsports.com/Saints now. We got these shirts on sale. All sizes still available. Click the link down below to shop and get yours today. Or if you want to get our brand new logo t-shirt, you can get this as well. The whole collection is available at chatsports.com/Saints now. Go and shop, get yourself some gear, and I promise you'll be thanking yourself on game day when you are looking the most fly at your watch parties. Alrighty, the New Orleans Saints, going back to them, they have a -8 net rest differential. To be totally honest, it could be a lot worse. I mean, all things considered, you have one primetime game on Monday Night Football in Week 4. You're playing in Paris. You're actually only playing one opponent coming off of a bye, which is Chicago. The Bengals will be on a short week when they play New Orleans in Week 12. The Packers are going to be coming off of a mini bye heading into Week 13. And kind of going back to it, I mean, could be the Chargers, who are, almost a whole month of net rest differential. That's tough. And they also have a little bit of a harder division outside of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, I mean, if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm not necessarily stoked about that. But if I'm a Saints fan, I go back and I say that -8, sure, it sucks, and I'd like to have a little bit more rest going in these games, but I also will say I have a lot of confidence in the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I think that they're a team that can battle through adversity. They've shown that they can win despite injuries. They've shown that they have a quarterback who can elevate the roster and win despite odds, and I think that the Saints are in a much better situation than they were last year, having more talent. The depth has been increased. The overall roster is in a much better spot. Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley, year 2 of their coaching staff. The only change you lost in the coaching staff that you lost was Jari Evans taking a lateral move to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I'm going to be totally honest, it could be a lot worse for the New Orleans Saints, But again, -8 net rest differential isn't necessarily the best. Now, on a positive note, according to Warren Sharp, the Saints have the second easiest strength of schedule according to how things pan out when it comes to projected win totals. We can show you a photo of week by week how this thing will shake out. Now, take a look at the coloration of each column. The green means that it's an easier schedule, ranked 1 through 11. The gray is kind of the middle of the pack, and the red is where those tougher games are going to be. So Warren Sharp saying that the toughest games are going to be Detroit, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. The easier ones are going to be the Raiders, the Falcons, the Panthers both times. I'm sorry. The Cardinals, 4.3. That's absolutely terrible. The Browns are in the mix there. And then you see a couple of teams there in the middle of the league. So the Saints do have the second easiest strength of schedule. I think that it's at least a silver lining to take away from the schedule release and, the opponents that you have. But again, take all of it with a grain of salt. A lot of factors are important to consider, including and especially the health of your rosters. So that's just kind of an interesting talking point, to say the least. The Saints got screwed because we aren't getting a lot of rest, but you do have a little bit of an easier schedule, or not even a little bit, a much easier schedule than most 30 other teams, which is pretty crazy. Now, hit me up on social media if you want to continue this conversation, or you want to, see what else is going on with the Saints between these videos. Also, fun fact, Family Crawfish Bowl this weekend. I'm in charge of the pot, so your boy's going to be cooking. If you want to see what I got whipped up at the Family Crawfish Bowl, hit me up on social media, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search up Trizzy Trace or click the links down below. Thank y'all so much for tuning into this video. My name is Trizzy. Y'all stay golden, and we'll see you next time.